I'm joined now by an expert who is obviously an agribusiness expert and a major player in the agri space. I'm joined by Dr. Ajisefinni Ayodeji. Thank you, Doctor, for coming on the program this morning.
It's my pleasure. Good morning, everybody.
And thank you for joining us on the program. I will want us to begin by, highlighting the data as released by USAID. 50%, from looking at it from my own lens, I mean, those are huge numbers, thinking that about 50% of harvests are lost after harvest due to poor storage facilities. But let me hear from you now, as someone who plays largely in the agri space. When you hear numbers like these, what comes to mind?
Well, thank you very much. The number is huge, but from the present situation, it's even more than that. It's between 55 to 60% losses, because the shortages start from the harvesting stage. During the harvesting stage, logistics of moving the harvested product and to the warehouse before it goes to the market. All these stages contributed to the post-harvest losses of farmers, and that's what contributed to hike in food prices.
But can you elaborate on what the major causes of these might be?
Yes, starting with lack of mechanized way of harvesting our products contributed a lot. For example, maize. Some of the smallholder farmers do manual harvesting of their maize, and during that period, a lot are not well harvested. Look at rice. When they are cutting the paddy rice, more than 50% of it goes back to the soil. Harvesting manually is number one challenges to post-harvest loss of farmers, and that's why we said loss to farmers starts from harvesting to logistics of moving the harvested to pre-cleaning stage before it finally goes to the warehousing or final market where it will be for consumption.
But let's go on a short break now. When we return, the conversation will continue. And my guest, who is Dr. Ayodeji Ajisefinni, is still on standby, so do stay. And you are still watching Business Daily, coming to you live on Trust TV. And just before the break, we started a conversation which is on post-harvest losses. And like I stated before, according to USAID, about 50% of harvest are lost after the harvesting period. Even though my guest did say that the numbers are more than that, he did say that it is between 55% and 60%. But my guest is still here with me in the person of Dr. Ajisefinni Ayodeji, who is an agribusiness expert. Thank you again, Doctor, for coming on the program today.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, Doctor, you said something. You said that this was a major contributor to inflation, to food inflation.
Yeah.
I would like for you to elaborate on that. I mean, are there, should I say, studies that has proven that?
Thank you very much. When we talk about production of food or farming, we start from planting, and before it goes to planting, there are some logistics that might have taken place, which include land preparation, planting, management of the crops to the point of harvest. At the point of harvest is another challenging stage for farmers. You have, for example, an hectare of land where you have about 55,000 standing maize, and you now use manual people to harvest the maize. In the course of harvesting manually, they will abandon some. Bird will have come to destroy some. Monkey will have come to destroy some. Insects will have come to destroy some. But the ones that manually, Nigerians, and we generally as a laborers, when it comes to manual things, if you are not the 100% to monitor it, you won't get accurate response. You won't get accurate expected results. Meaning that manual harvesting leads to shortage to farmers. That is one. Two, if you are successfully able to harvest those you can get, which eventually may not be up to your expected output, the logistic of moving those products from farm to where the infrastructure is located, which is outside the farm, is another problem. Bad road is there. Cost of transportation is there, because the vehicle that we want to come to the farm and move the product, we calculate the cost of coming empty and going back on that crop, which as a farmer is not making profit yet. Where is the infrastructure you are taking it to? That is the warehouse. Is the warehouse conducive for that product? How do you package those products harvested for the duration of time that the middleman or the processor will come for it? Rodents will do their own. It will do their own. Unfortunately, if there is heavy rain, may remove the roof of where the warehouse is. What happens?
But doctor, you've talked about the contributing factors, weather conditions, like you rightly stated, to poor storage facilities, poor transportation facilities, even access to market can also be one of those challenges. But I really want to hear, how this is affecting the smallholder farmers themselves, talking about their livelihood specifically.
Sincerely speaking, it's affecting them seriously. It's just because some of them accept it as a fate, that whatever we are able to bring out of the farm, let's go and manage ourselves. And when they get to market, whatever they are selling in the market is what they will base their selling price to. But critically, these post-harvest and post-harvest activities affects it a lot. And why is it like that? Just like one of the respondents said, post-harvest management. It should be harvest and post-harvest management. At the local level, there should be what we call capacity building on harvesting skill and post-harvesting skill.
From what you're saying that the harvesting stage is equally as important.
It's very, very, very important.
Stage.
Yes, let me give you a case study of rice farming. Manual cutting is the process in rice farming, using knife to cut rice. After doing that, in the process, some of the paddy will fall down back to the soil. Whatever they are able to pack, they take it to a location, keep it there. They can't take the straw and the paddy together for storage. They will need to do threshing. It's not all the local farmers or smallholder farmers that have access to threshing machine. What is the work of that thresher? Is to remove the paddy from the storm. How do they get it done locally? By beating the straw on a stone to get the paddy. Meanwhile, there will be a nylon and they will put a big stone or a big stump of a wood where they will just be beating the paddy. And what do you expect? It's not everything that will come out. And if that is done, they will now pack everything to another level for storage. They will pack it in a sack. In the process of packing it, some will fall down. All these stages are the conventional ways which have been affecting the smallholder farmers. Even before now, you remember I said, averagely there is no farm, it's very rare to see a farmer, a smallholder farmer, to boost of 40 bags of paddy rice of 100 kg. That is 4 tons. And what is the reason? 1, planting, population, harvesting, and storage facilities.
But let me ask you, when it comes to harvest losses and post-harvest losses, are these peculiar to food crops alone?
It's not only to food crops, even to tree crops.
What about, say, fishery now, for instance?
Good. For example, you are harvesting your fresh fish. In the process, if you are using an hectare pond, you have to pump out the water and use nets to drag out the matured fish. In the process, some of these fish, most especially for those people that have their own hectare pond in a muddy area, some of the fishes might have entered into the mud, which you will not know. Cannibalism might have existed. What do I mean by cannibalism? You stock 1,000. Maybe the big one have swallowed the small ones, or the small ones have killed this big one in the process of growing. Now you are able to harvest some out of it. After harvesting, transportation from your farm, live. You need to preserve them to move them from the farm to the marketplace. Bad road contributed a lot. lack of good vehicle to move harvested products. In Nigeria today, we use the same vehicle for human transportation for food, both livestock and arable products, which is supposed not to be. Yes, we have a bad road. In the place where there is a bad road, there should be a 4x4 wheel drive that will give the animals or the crop comfortability. And the orientation here is what we need is what we need. We the farmers, some of us only look at our own comfortability, not thinking that the comfortability of your livestock, you are moving from your farm to the market, is more important even than you, the owner. I don't mean that their life is so important, but we should consider them. We should consider our finished products, how we move from the farm. Some people will move their crops from the farm without covering it, dust will come, rain may fall during their transportation. All these things need to be considered, and it leads. Another thing on the transportation, moving from one point to another that takes 3-4 hours, bad road leads to traffic jam. Where there is traffic jam or where there is an accident, what is the future of such? A lot of factors, but majorly mechanization, infrastructures, and good transportation, and end it up with capacity building to smallholder farmers in their language, supporting them and having a mini industrial incubation center to minimize the movage of the raw feed or raw crop or raw food to a processing center in that community. Having cottage industry is another important thing that can minimize post-harvest loss.
You've hammered on the importance of mechanization, technological innovation.
Yeah.
But access to affordable technology has remained a challenge, especially for smallholder farmers. What can be done in that regard? I am thinking, some sort of collaboration, say, between the government and the private sector. But let's hear from you.
Yes, there should be serious collaboration in the area of mini harvesting equipment on hire purchase basis, either to cooperative farmers societies or to associations or to individuals that have whatever the prerequisite condition will be. If government says, either state or local or federal says, okay, you need mini processing harvesting machine for cassava. Take for example cassava. If you plant cassava, it takes almost 12 months before you get harvest. And most of the time, the harvesting period is always during the dry season. And the harvesting will be done manually. You know how many that will be abandoned in the soil. But if there are equipments that can uproot the cassava mechanically, it will lessen the loss. If there are machines, which I know there are so many machines that can be used to harvest maize, to harvest rice, most of our crops, that we harvest it, thresh it, and package it in the right way. Coming back to your question, intervention and collaboration between the private sector and the government. What is the area of government? Giving the private sector tax holiday for the importation of some of these equipment. If these equipments are here and our financial institutions that are responsible for agric development in the country is there, they can go for asset financing for a period of minimum of between 3 and 5 years to get that for the farmers. Either if they can't get it as an individual, let clusters of farmers come together and lessen the burden of this trouble.
You also did touch briefly on capacity building and training, going to local areas, teaching these people in their local dialects. Those were your words.
Yes.
But I would like for you to, emphasize on that now, helping us to understand, the role that capacity building plays in situations like this.
You see, thank you very much. I can remember in the 80s where we used to have extension service. It lessened the burden of all this because the extension officers are in that village to educate the villagers on the modern technology of handling their businesses. But today, not that they are not there, but they are not enough. And since that is the problem, why can't we, the farmers, come together as a body? Don't let us wait for government to do it for us. Let's get across to people that can give us the technology, that can give us the skill. Because everything now, most especially in the area of food security in Nigeria, has to be in cluster system. If we are in cluster, it's much cheaper for us than as an individual. As an individual, it may sound expensive. Why must I go and pay 20 or 50 or 100,000 to learn how to do my harvesting? Let me just be doing it the way I used to do it. No! We are in jet age, and jet age moves with everything. There are some technological way of doing it better than the way we have been doing it. Therefore, training and train the trainers is the ultimate in combating this issue of post-harvest losses. And the training should not be in the classroom alone. It should be on the field. Whereby the farmers will see it and say, wow, this is doable. But if you explain it to them in the class, for them to come to the field and practice it, there's nobody that will correct them. Therefore, when we are talking about capacity building in local dialects, it should be on the field. Thank you.
But let me ask you now. You talked about, improvements in the agri value chain, from transport to storage and everything else. So that value chain now, how will it impact in, I would say, processing and packaging? Because, processing and packaging are equally a part of the agri value chain, especially talking about improving the shelf life of certain produce.
Thank you very much. The way the products or the farm produce is harvested is very important, and packaged from the farm. You have maize with comb. If it is easy, if the farmers have the opportunity of having their maize sheller on the farm, immediately it is being harvested, the machine will remove the first layers before we come to the main comb. Immediately it gets to the main comb, it's cut it off, and it goes to shelling point, whereby the shelling point will shell the seed from the comb. And good enough, that sheller may have facilities, or that harvester may have facilities of crushing the comb. The maize, the grains will go separately, while the byproduct, which we call waste, which is an input to another organization, another product, will stay on their own, and packaging will be done automatically. When the packaging is done, manually, we move the product, the bagged, well bagged, sealed or sold to the vehicle. Preferably trucks. Covered trucks is the best thing that we need to use in moving food because of the hygienic nature. The way there are so many toxic moving around in the air that are not good for consumption. Exhaustive pipe of the vehicles, the exhaust from there is being affected by the so-called farm produce openly. But if we use a covered vehicle in moving from the farm to the warehouse, and the warehouse is well ventilated, well protected, whereby there won't be any rodents. And the usage of forklift is even very important to minimize the interference of human to the offloading and rearranging it from that warehouse to whoever is the processor before it ends to the processing stage. And for the processing stage, it has to be minimal interference of human. And these things are capital intensive. That is why there should be, I pray there will be a policy that will support this value chain. You just said something now, talking about, the capital intensive nature of food storage. And what comes to mind is, some unhygienic ways that some farmers have started to use or are using due to the cost, like you rightly stated, of storing. And what comes to mind is, I also learned that some farmers use sniper to store beans. Exactly, which is not hygienic.
Obviously.
It's not hygienic. Why do we need to be using sniper? But there are researches that have shown that there are so many other ways you can preserve your beans without usage of snipers. Where is the research? That's why the research institute should stop keeping the research result in the shelf. And that is where the issue of information dissemination needs to come into it.
I mean, you talked about farmer training and support,
exactly.
capacity
and there should
building.
Be regular advocacy on every aspect of agricultural activities through the extension service provider.
You also did mention, the right policies being put in place after you talked about, the costs of, storage, which you said can be on the high side most times, capital intensive. So let us talk towards, policy and policy direction that you are pushing for, especially in the area of storages and addressing the issue of post-harvest losses.
To minimize the issue of post-harvest losses, first and foremost, the first thing for commercial farming in Nigeria we need urgently is to go back to farm settlement arrangement or cluster operation. If in a cluster of 50 or 100 hectares, there must be a warehouse, meaning that from the farm to the warehouse. If we have that facilities there, whenever it's ready to be moved to wherever they are moving it, they are going in bulk, the cost of movement will be reduced. I don't know if you are getting my point.
I understand.
If that is done, before that is done, training of the farmers, not only on how to plant or manage, how do you preserve it? And in knowing how to preserve, what are the technology required in the warehouse? Must the warehouse be 100% sealed? Must there be ventilation? Must there be lighting? How many doors or windows must it consist of? Must it be sealed? Is it have a ceiling or what? You see, all these little things. Must it be on the bare floor, or you need to put it on the pallet? All these things needs to be put in place at the farm settlement, so that each farmer that harvests from his farm will use that central warehousing. It shouldn't be free, by the way. It should be commercialized at a very low and pocket friendly to farmers. You don't need to go to your house and keep these things in your house. Bring it to this place. We will give you your own space. It's on list for the number of days, and there should be number of days before it goes out. We don't need to be hoarding food. Hoarding it for dry season or when the price is high. I don't want to sell my product now until the price is high. I used to tell some of my students that, look, the more you keep your product, the more the weight reduces, because the more it gets dry, the more the moisture content reduces and the weight reduces. When by the time the price you think is high, you are selling, you are not breaking even. He said, why? And now I said, good. Cost of holding, you never put it into consideration. Cost of loss of weight, you never put it into consideration. Because then when you harvested it was 100 naira. Now it is 500 naira. You thought you are making profit. No. We don't need to audit till when the price is high before we sell. We are running at loss. Some of us don't know because we lack some skill, financial costing skill. All this contributed to what we are talking about, and that is why we are having this crisis of food shortages. We find the issues of hike in price, because something you keep for more than 3 months, there are some farmers that will keep their harvest for 1 year, thinking they will make more money. And the reason for that is because they did not meet up with the expected yield. And the only thing that can make them to make up with it is when the price of the food is high, they will sell and make that money, not knowing that at that time, if proper costing is put in place, they are not making that profit.
Okay, you've spoken to activities like hoarding. You have said could also, be a cause of the current food crisis that we're facing here in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So the question I would want you to elaborate more on is, how post-harvest losses, obviously when being minimized, can not just address the issue of producing enough, but ensuring that these foods are available in the seasons that they are needed. So what would you say should be done towards that?
Thank you very much. It's an appeal to the farmers, not only to government. When we harvest, let's sell, don't let us keep. Whatever we plant in rainy season and the harvesting period is falls within the rainy season, let's sell it and make whatever God has blessed us with, than keeping it for dry season where you think we make times 2 of the money. And this can only be achieved if we use the modern technology in managing our farm. How do I mean? By doing the needful, starting from land preparation, weed control, chemical usage, seed planting. All this will make things easier. We will make the profit during the season. Let every season be for food production and food marketing.
But let me understand you. Are you against food storage if they are done in the proper manner?
If we have excess, it's good to store. But a position where we don't even have enough, why do we have to store? Let's consume what we produce until when we are able to have excess. It is when the supply is, when the supply is greater than the demand that you can have excess to keep. Not when the supply is below the demand you are keeping. What are we doing? We are creating food crisis. When the supply is not there and some people are still holding it for when the price will multiply. The effect on them, which they don't know, is that they are not making that profit. If they consider the security men they hire to secure the place, the rentage of the warehouse, most of us that are in business, agribusiness, we don't consider the structure we put in place as an asset that needs to be replenished. Therefore, whatever you put there, put it on lease. You harvest from your farm, you keep it in your warehouse. Let those products be on lease. Cost it to your cost of production. It will not make the cost to be higher. And that's why agribusiness is the way to go. And when we talk about agribusiness, costing is there, marketing is there, management, skill management is there. Not only for production.
That is more elaborate than just farming. But you have, hammered on what is involved in agribusiness as compared to just being an agriculture. I would like for you to, amplify more on the trends that are, currently existent in the agribusiness space that could, be used in addressing these issues.
Thank you. In agribusiness space, it's not everybody that needs to go and be the direct farmer. There are some people that, when it comes to mechanization, they partner with the farmers. There are some people that are into logistics that are good for movement of input and output from the farm. They partner with the farmers. There are some people that are good in marketing. They partner with the farmer. There are some people that are very good in the soil management and land preparation. All of them comes together to do this work. And when it's time for land preparation, those teams will come and do the work. When it's time for production, for processing, those will come. For warehousing, those will come because they have the skill, they have the resources, and everything must be accounted for. And these are what form the economic of production. If it is well articulated, I want to believe cost of production will reduce because there will be more yield as expected in production. And when what we expect from 1 hectare of land of any crops we plant is up to the standard, or we are 80% close to it, the farmer will laugh to his bank.
Well, you seem to say that agribusiness fosters more collaboration between different stakeholders.
Exactly. We have so many stakeholders within the social environment of agribusiness. Therefore, for the issue relating to post-harvesting, innovation and technology play a paramount role, and infrastructure, adequate infrastructure, play another paramount role. A serious role. And to top it all, capacity building for the farmers. Very, very important. Very, very important. We should not just put an intervention to farmers without giving them the knowledge required.
Well said.
It will end up to be a waste.
Well said. I have been speaking with Dr. Ajisefinni Ayodeji, who is an agribusiness expert, and he has been speaking towards addressing the major post-harvest losses. And like I stated before, according to USAID, Nigeria currently loses about 50% of its crop produce after harvest. Thank you very much, Doctor, for
my pleasure.
A very insightful conversation, I must say.
Thank you very much for having me here.
And this is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of Business Daily. But keep the conversation going on social media. Let us hear, what you're going through in the area of post-harvest and, solutions towards addressing the losses that Nigeria currently faces at the stage of post-harvesting. My name is Chiamaka Enendu'S. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.